I'm a big runner, but about a year ago, I had a mini stroke at work. And I left work in an ambulance, and I couldn't walk, and I couldn't see out of my right eye. Well, I'm doing something crazy. Speaking of marathons in November, It's called the Great World Race. I've never been more exhausted after Floyd hit. I mean, I think I remember I worked pretty much 4 straight days. And I remember when I finally got my break, I think I slept like 22 hours in a row. Is Tornado Alley moving? And the answer is
This episode of the Alien Podcast is sponsored by the Waffle Bus. So if you're looking for some great fresh food that you can go eat and enjoy, it's actually different and good, I would highly recommend them. TheWaffleBus.com to find a location near you. And if you're wanting to know my recommendations, I typically go for the smash burger with waffle fries. And then for a dessert, I absolutely love the strawberries and cream. It's waffles with strawberries and cream. And it's amazing. There's nothing else like it. I just absolutely love it. I was the one that actually reached out to them. So I want to give a big shout out to them. Thank you very much for sponsoring this episode. And a few more to come. Check out thewafflebus.com. Guys, I greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much. And let's get back to the show. Okay. Well, today we have Jake Dunne. So thank you very much for your time.
my pleasure.
So morning meteor. Yeah, you're a morning meteorologist, right?
Mm-hmm, correct.
Okay. Husband, father.
Yep.
And I've also learned something else here lately, that you run marathons.
Yeah, I do. I run quite a bit.
Okay. Is there anything else that we...
Well, I'm doing something crazy. Speaking of marathons in November, It's called the Great World Race. You familiar with that?
All continents?
All continents.
Okay.
So not just all 7 continents. We're going to run 7 marathons on all 7 continents in 1 week.
Oh.
So you start in Antarctica and you knock that out, and then you go to Cape Town, South Africa. Then you go to Perth, Australia, Abu Dhabi in the UAE, and then you go to Faro, I think it's Faro, in Portugal.
Yes. Okay.
And then Cartagena, Colombia.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last one's in Miami, Florida. So we're doing it all for charity for a local organization, ICTSOS. So we're going to raise lots of money on their behalf.
So is that you representing something local for... out of here? I mean, they're helping you.
Yeah, the backstory, I'm a big runner, but about a year ago, I had a mini stroke at work.
Ooh, okay.
And I left work in an ambulance, and I couldn't walk, and I couldn't see out of my right eye. But by the grace of God, within 24 hours, I was, starting to get everything was coming back straight and normal. And I, just said, if I get out of this one, I'm going to do something crazy. I haven't been a runner for a long time, and I've had some setbacks, and I've always dreamt of this. In the Great World Race, it's like that's everybody's dream, but it's like I can't afford that. That's out of my tax bracket. So I've been working with Jennifer White. She runs ICTSOS.
Okay.
And so she said, let's do it. So we're going to raise a bunch of money for them, and she's going to, front the bill for this. And so it's a win-win. It's a win-win. ICTSOS, it's a human trafficking education, and then help the survivors. Mm-hmm. And we're going to take their word and their organization on a global platform. And that'll be in November. So yeah, training for that right now.
Okay. So that's cool. You get to experience a lot of things and help charity cause too.
Yes.
So, all right. Well, that's really good. I want to go back a little bit. So usually I do the born and raised thing too. Just curious about that, where people are, born and raised at. So
born and raised in Wichita, Kansas.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Been here a while. Let's see. I went to Kinsler Elementary, then Wilbur, and then Northwest High.
Okay.
I'm a graduate of 1994. And then I actually interned at Channel 12 in the mid to late 90s with Merrill Teller and Mark Larson. I'm sure a lot of people remember those names. We were talking, I'm sure we'll get to this later, about the Andover tornadoes. Mm-hmm. And, Merrill was there for the first one, and I remember watching him. So I interned there, and then I wanted to be on TV so badly.
Okay.
But the boss at the time said, Jake, you look like you're 12. She said, but when you're 40, it's going to pay dividends. And I guess she was right. But so they helped me get a job at our sister station in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. So I
Ooh.
bounced around the country for 20 years, met my wife. We've got 2 kids, amazing kids. My son just graduated from KU last weekend. And then in 2019, I got this cold email wondering if I was interested in coming back. And we lived about 20 minutes from the ocean and on the Florida-Alabama line.
Okay.
And it's like, well, I don't know. We'll see. And, long story short, they just wooed me over. So we moved back here in 2019, back home. It's been back now for 6 years.
Okay. I didn't realize this. Okay, so you'd been in South Carolina for quite a while then,
Well,
but
bounced around. So
okay.
yeah. So South Carolina was first, then Colorado, Iowa, Georgia briefly, Wyoming, and then my son was born in Iowa. My daughter was born in Wyoming, and then we were in Michigan for 10 years. That's where my wife is from. We went to her hometown, and then after Michigan, we went down to the Gulf Coast of Alabama. We were kind of like right there on the coast, and then 4 years there. And so 6 years, you add it all up, it's almost 27 years in television.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
I know, I'm old. Don't remind me.
All right. No, just the travel. That's what amazes me. So, okay, but so born here, graduated high school here.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then was weather something you were interested in pretty early on?
It was. I mean, I was a child of the 80s. When cable first came out, everybody's like MTV, and I'm like the closet watching the Weather Channel. Like, oh no, I was watching MTV. I was just changing the channel. But this is before the first Twister movie. This is before all these storm chasers. I mean, you were. I'm sorry, you were a dork, and I didn't want to be a dork. So I love the weather, but I wanted to. I don't know. I guess I didn't want to be associated with it, and I kind of abandoned it. And I'm like, I was kind of I liked it a lot as a kid. I loved to storm chase. I wasn't afraid of tornadoes. I made logs of the highs and lows. I did all that, but I just didn't want anybody to know. And then, I don't know what's happened in the 90s. I mean, I think Jim Cantori on the Weather Channel, he kind of brought some popularity to it. And I'm like, wait a minute here. And so I've always loved it. But then again, Andover #1, April 26th, 1991. That's what probably put the nail in the coffin. That was like, no, this is for me. When I saw, just what nature's fury can do to people's homes and properties. And unfortunately, we lost a lot of people that day, that Friday.
That was a bad one.
So that's when I decided, yeah, I got to do this.
Okay. So it was like weather. Wasn't other sciences too at the time, or anything like that? Just
weather. And the funny thing is,
is your calling early then, huh?
Yeah, and it's math and science. And
a lot.
I'm a math guy. I am a math guru. I love math, but I struggled in science. I mean, the physics, well, not so much chemistry, but the thermodynamics. I struggled. I mean, I had to work my tail end off to get C's and B's, but I got through it. But I'm a math guy. I love numbers. I love math. So
learning a whole different language, basically.
Pretty much.
That. Okay. What all? There is a lot of math involved in meteorology. Or is yours atmospheric science?
They're interchangeable. I got my undergrad degree in just atmospheric science, and I have a master's degree in applied meteorology, which is basically exactly what it says: applying meteorology to everything we do. If you think about it, almost every decision you make in a day is based on the weather in some direct or indirect way, and weather costs more money than we can imagine. Let me get my numbers here straight. I just did the research here. From 1980 to 2023, we have had in Kansas alone over $100 billion in damage from weather, whether that's hail hitting, crops or floods or tornadoes, or, maybe it shut down the airport for a day. It costs money. It costs a lot of money, a lot more we think that damage. And yes, there's damage, but when you shut down an airport for a day, like we did on Thanksgiving a couple of years ago, I mean, Eisenhower was shut down for a day, and right after Thanksgiving, that cost them and the airlines a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah, I know for a fact that they don't like those things sitting. They don't like the birds sitting there. So it's that costs a lot of money keeping those things on the ground. Okay, so you were able to. So the science part, or that part of it, you had to work a little harder at, but the math. No problem at
No
all
problem.
for you? Okay. Well, that's cool. Um, so w- where did you go to school at for?
I did bounce around. So I started my son, I said he graduated from KU. He's a fifth generation.
Okay.
I did go to KU, and this is again the mid '90s. They had a good meteorology program, but it wasn't really geared toward television at the time.
Okay.
And I kind of butted heads with a couple of the professors who thought that people on TV were jokes. It didn't work out. And I, after one semester, I withdrew and about got banned from my family. You did what? You left KU? And I'm like, and then I came back here. I really didn't know what I was going to do. So I did go to Wichita State, and enrolled in their journalism school.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember, I see some Wichita State stuff here.
That's my wife mainly. She's
Okay.
graduated from there
They had a
3
program.
times. So.
Three-
Yeah.
They had a program back, and it's called Studio B,
Mhm.
and they did live newscasts every Friday on the campus. And I was like, well, okay, I can learn the TV side. And then I started interning with Merrill, and he's Merrill Teller. I call him Merrill.
Yeah.
And he says, well, there's this new place. It's a new thing. It's online, and you can start getting meteorology classes online at Mississippi State.
Okay.
And I'm talking, this is way before. I'm talking like they would send you, VCR cassettes to watch. And this is not like today's
Okay,
online.
yeah.
This is ancient history. And I started that, and I got like a certificate. I'm like, I like this, but I want more.
Right.
So I finished up. I went down there and finished up there, and then came back. And then that's when I got my first job in South Carolina, Myrtle Beach. So.
Okay. Yeah. Actually, Mississippi State's pretty well regarded for
Nowadays it is. They had a really good on-campus program. They kind of got a bad, because again, they were just sending you video cassettes and stuff like that, and you got enough to get a certificate. And then I think this was the early '90s, and then they went a little bit farther. You could actually get a bachelor all online, but that was kind of frowned upon by some of the people, that went to OU and went to KU or Penn State or wherever. They're like, that's not really fair. They're a meteorologist, and they did half the stuff that I did. So, and I get that. So I went ahead and went and, finished up. And then again, I since and went and got my master's degree as well. So.
Right. Yeah. The certificate, I feel like it would make you, I do think that's a cool thing though, because then it can force you or make you want to go ahead and go further with
and
it.
the reason that came about, television is changed. And back in the '80s and '90s especially, there were a lot of people on TV, and it's not really by their choice. They were a reporter or whatever, and the boss said, "Hey, I think you might do okay doing the weather," and so they looked good on camera. They presented the forecast well, but they really didn't know the science behind it. So they got at least some schooling from Mississippi State. And a lot of people that originally went to Mississippi State online were already in TV for several years and just trying to learn about the weather. So that's kind of how that whole got started. They're like, well, let's help these people on TV. And they were the Mississippi State, if I remember right, they were the first ones to actually bring in like the weather systems that you use on television. They were the first ones to actually buy those systems and put them on campus. So you could learn the weather system, like the graphics machine. On campus, and they had a green wall too. So they kind of were the pioneers there. Now it's a dime a dozen. You go to any good weather school, they've got all that, but they're the first ones. So I think they did a good job teaching you, because there's a lot of science and math like we've talked about, but how do I take all of that information and bring it down to the level of my viewer?
Yeah.
That's difficult to do.
It is.
Yeah. You know what's happening up in the atmosphere, but it's like, how do I take all that confusing mumbo jumbo and just tell the people it's going to rain here, and this is how bad it's going to be.
Yeah, to break down the forecast and why it's doing it, and so you look at the I don't know what the map's called, but it has the jet stream on it, and it shows a low pressure system. So maybe I can put one up on the screen for people to see if it, but how you guys are able to read that and tell exactly where the storm should be. And I think it's, some people get really mad. We'll get to that later.
Uh-oh.
If it doesn't hit, if the model doesn't show or something like that, but the jet stream's not going to act just like that, the what the models show and everything. So
I think what we all need to remember is weather is an inexact science. And basically what that means is I don't care how fast computers get, and they're getting really fast, and we're getting way better model information than we ever have, and that will just get better and better. but we'll never get to 100% because basically the big, weather balloons that go up and collect the data,
Mm-hmm.
okay, well, they go up and collect the data, but they miss things. As that balloon's rising, it may miss a temperature reading at a certain height or a humidity reading, and so the computer will guess that. It will
Okay.
guess that. So that's the first problem. Is there's missing data and it's being guessed.
Okay.
And maybe it's a little tiny mistake
Mm-hmm.
now, but that mistake grows exponentially down the line. So that
Correct.
mistake just gets bigger and bigger 3 days, 4 days, 5 days down the road. So that's the first problem. The second problem is by the time the computer has ingested all the information from that weather balloon,
Mm-hmm.
things have already changed.
Right.
It's already changed.
Because
So
the sun's constantly moving too, so it's warming.
everything's
Different,
moving,
correct.
again, that, and then the weather balloon, you launch it above Dodge City, which is where we've got two, Topeka and Dodge City.
Oh, that's the only two that launch in
Yeah,
Kansas?
well, there's only two. I mean, that's the thing too,
Okay.
is think about all the missing. There's a lot of space between Topeka and Dodge City.
And then to come over to us.
Yeah. So what are we doing? We're guessing the missing data in between. So it's a big sky,
Yeah.
So we're doing a job, but we'll never be perfect. And we're only as good as the models, and they're much, much better. I mean,
Mhm.
like I said, I'm 27 years in now, man. Felt like the Stone Age thinking back to what we had. I mean,
Yeah.
the models were you had now. It's like it will show you like you see future track, like
Okay.
it's showing you
Yeah.
what radar's going to look like later today and tonight. We didn't have that in the mid 90s. It was just you had to paint the clouds on, put the little thunderbolts on where you thought they were going to be based on your
okay.
research and data. So in the 90s, it took a lot longer to forecast, but the maps we made were very easy to do. They weren't these crazy so you spent maybe 80% of your time actually forecasting and 20% of your time making the maps.
Okay.
Now you spend a lot less time forecasting because these models are so good, but you have to do a lot of map making in social media
Oh.
and web. I mean so it's changed a lot. There's a lot more duties than there were a quarter century ago,
Which could benefit because more time to get the news out to people if severe weather is possible, to be aware, to all right, okay, I hate to, man, there's so much to jump
we could be
ahead.
here all day.
I know. So we'll come back to that because I have questions about percentages and everything else about about why that's confusing to some people. But okay, but I'm gonna go back to college.
Okay.
Okay, so you get out of college. You were already interning, correct?
Yep.
Well, you said you finished your degree, and then so you moved already? They sent you to South Carolina. Is that where you said first?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's where my first. Yeah, we had a sister station in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. So yeah, that's right. That was my first on air. So I worked at 12, but I was never on camera. I was behind the scenes, helping produce, helping forecast, whatnot, storm chasing.
Okay.
But I was never in front of the camera. And then my first on camera job was in South Myrtle Beach.
Okay. So even though Myrtle Beach, there's still a lot of trees out in South Carolina. I don't know in that area, but more southern.
Oh no, lots of trees.
Lots of trees
Lots
still.
of trees, yeah.
So not the greatest for viewing. I don't know what the tornadoes are like out there. If they go,
anywhere like
Get the
'cause in
hurricanes,
the deep
but-
south,
Mhm.
a lot of your tornadoes are rain wrapped. Those storms are high precipitation storms, a lot of humidity, and a lot of your tornadoes are rain wrapped, which means you really can't see them until they're in front of you.
Okay.
So they're not the most picturesque, and they're really hard to like. The warning time is usually a lot lower in those areas. Like I said, we talked briefly about the tornadoes we had just a few days ago, and the lead. Some of these towns had 30 minutes of lead time, and that's really why we think there were no fatalities last Sunday.
Right.
So their lead time smaller, but then also yes, trees everywhere. So it's there. You don't storm chase as much down there because it's really hard and it's dangerous.
Yeah.
I mean, you're out here in the plains. We all know you can see miles and miles and miles.
Right.
It's a lot safer, but you get in the wrong spot down there and these windy dirt roads and
it is windy.
yeah,
We're like a grid here.
Yes.
In Kansas. You go to South Carolina, and I remember going down a road because I was in Charleston for a little bit, and then somehow I ended up back north, but didn't really realize I was going south, and then somehow I ended up going back north. It's a little confusing if you're from the central planes, to go there. I would say I almost felt claustrophobic because of the trees.
I can understand that.
Like people say that out here it's so flat, so bare. Like for storm season, it's like a sense of comfort. You can
No,
see things coming.
you really hit the nail on the head. I mean,
Mhm.
that's why, again, that's storm chasers love chasing, and
Mhm.
anywhere from North Dakota all the way down to Texas, because
Right.
again, you get these, let's be honest, they're out there. Most of them are out there either doing research
Mhm.
or making money. It's their livelihood,
Right.
and you're going to get a much better, picture or video if you don't have trees in your way, or you get those just beautiful, cumulonimbus clouds, and like we'll talk, I'm sure, a little bit Andover number two,
Mhm.
just a few years ago. That was probably arguably one of the most photogenic tornadoes ever, because you could see it from 360 degrees because it was so far displaced from the storm. So yeah, it's much safer, and yeah, a storm chasers like the planes. I promise you that.
Right. Yeah. Um, yeah, we came upstairs, got outside, saw it, watched it. Um, I think I've told the story about it, on here before. We watched it go, and it was just going and going. And her parents live that way, and I was like, we probably ought to call your mom, like, because
Yeah.
I was like, I don't think it's letting up. And yeah, so we called her, got her in the basement. It only hit about a half mile from there too. So um, yeah, but we watched it for quite a while. You could see
Yeah.
the top of it
You
just
could,
going.
I mean, think about that in the South. You might not be able to see a tornado
Mhm.
a quarter mile away from you. Andover 2,
Mhm.
they saw that one from downtown. I mean, as the crow flies, what is that? At least 10 miles? 10-ish, something like that?
Yeah, it's
I mean, that's a
yeah,
long ways off to see
it
a
is.
tornado, because again, it wasn't hidden by rain or anything else. It was just, I was out by, it was, if I remember, it was 2 miles away from its parent cell, which is extremely rare. Most tornadoes are, a few hundred yards, half mile from the storm, so you're still going to not see it from one side because the storm's going to be in the way, but you could see it from 360 degrees.
Yeah. Yeah, it was so clear
Yep.
that day. I remember that. And even after, and then a little bit later, there was like the biggest hailstorm I've ever been in hit right here too on our house, and just it was so it was so loud. I got to tell you a story off camera. I don't want. Anyway. Okay. Back South Carolina. So, was it a new experience? Like, well, obviously it was to talk about hurricanes and to try to forecast hurricanes. Like
Yeah.
while you're working there.
That's a whole beast. And I mean, again, I'm brand new. I'm young and nervous. And we had 3 hurricanes my first season there. And one of
Oh,
them was Hurricane Floyd in 1999, which was, I mean,
okay.
most people don't remember it. It didn't do much. It was a Category 5 as it was coming in the Atlantic toward the coastline. And then it curved at the last moment and it weakened to a 3, which is still a big storm. And I mean, we had tremendous flooding. We didn't have a lot of damage, but I mean, and from a news standpoint too. I mean, a tornado warning is a 100-meter sprint.
Mm-hmm.
It, and I know in the middle of it, if you're going through one or if you're on television covering a tornado warning, it feels like forever.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a 100-meter sprint. A hurricane is a marathon.
Right.
When the hurricane is forming, or and it's maybe 3 days away from the coast or 2 days, you go to hurricane watch.
Mm-hmm.
So you start doing cut-ins every hour on television, and then as soon as it becomes a hurricane warning, then
Mm-hmm.
you're on, most TV stations are on nonstop, no
Right.
commercials. It's television 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, from people that aren't budgeted or manpower to do that. So you get worn down, and then it hits, and then it's chaos. Oh, and then you have to still be on TV when it's gone and you're picking up the pieces. I mean, I've never been more exhausted after Floyd hit. I mean, I think I remember I worked pretty much 4 straight days.
Okay.
And I remember when I finally got my break, I think I slept like 22 hours in a row. I mean,
Oh
so
wow.
it is
Yeah.
just, and the thing about it is you get the people from the national affiliates, and that's their job, to go to the hurricane, hey, this is where it's coming and
Mm-hmm.
whatnot. As soon as it hits, they leave
Mm-hmm.
and go to the next story, whatever it may be. After a hurricane is the worst, because you're talking about the deep south, usually in July, August, or September. no air conditioning,
Oh, yeah.
extremely humid.
Mm-hmm.
Most don't have power, so you can't just go to the ATM and get cash. Most restaurants are closed. The grocery store's closed. Your house is disgustingly hot. And then the lizards, the snakes, the alligators, they're displaced.
Oh,
And you
okay.
find alligators and poisonous snakes where they have no business being.
Mm-hmm.
It's a nightmare. I mean, as bad as it is leading up to the hurricane, if it hits your area, the aftermath it's a nightmare. And that's why I tell people evacuate, not because of anything, it's just it's miserable. It's miserable
Right.
afterwards. It's miserable.
Yeah.
Not to mention your life's at stake, but it's miserable when you get
Mhm.
back. So
I didn't even think about that, all the alligators and everything
yeah.
like that. Here, uh, okay, so we have a little better than I guess with you'll see a lot of black widows
Oh
or
yeah.
all the spiders come out, right? So I guess not as bad as alligators being displaced, but yeah. Okay, so um, was that something that okay, other than the long hours for that one? Real quick, is so anytime big storms come up like that, like or like we just had, do the stations always put like everybody all hands on deck for that to watch or?
It kind of depends, like here on the situation. So, are you familiar with like the severe weather outlook? It used to be like
Mhm.
slide. Now we just go level 1 through 5.
Oh, okay.
Where it's just people got confused. What's worse, an enhanced or a moderate? And I
Yep.
agree. It's our
Mhm.
job is to make it as simple as possible. I think most people understand a 1 through 5 scale. We all know that an EF5 is way stronger than an EF1 or a Category 5 hurricane. So we just do the same thing with the severe weather outlook.
Okay.
Um, so last Sunday was a 4. We were level 4, which is almost the top. The high, the 5. We didn't get there, but if we're in a 5, then yeah, it's all hands on deck because we're
Okay.
we're expecting destruction.
Okay.
We're expecting damage. We might loss of life. So
Right.
yeah, it's an all hands on deck if you're thinking about that. Now, like Sunday, we had Sunday's my day off.
Mhm.
Saturday's my cover day. And so we had 2 meteorologists at the station, Ross and Peyton, and then we had Rodney out in the field. So we did beef up our weatherman power. The news beefed up, their side of things too. So I
Okay.
wouldn't say all hands on deck, but it's a lot more than what would be normally there.
Okay. What what is that like for you guys? Like to somebody watching radar, somebody communicating to the public, on TV, and then phones or
So the
just
newsroom will usually handle like the phones and stuff
okay.
like that. And then the meteorologist will kind of go back and forth. So one will be on camera, doing the radar, doing the drawing,
Mhm.
storm tracking, velocity, going from precipitation to the winds and, kind of playing on the radar. The other one will be back behind the scenes. And there's the National Weather Service chat room where we've got National Weather Service meteorologists and television meteorologists and storm chasers in this private chat room, and they're telling us what they see. So it's just about communication. And then the meteorologists on TV might need a break to grab some water or what have you. They'll kind of switch spots. It's kind of
Okay.
back and forth, but honestly, it goes by so fast.
I
It goes by
imagine.
you can be on air 4 hours and you don't even realize it.
Right,
So
with how fast storms move,
yeah. Well, and like last Sunday, I mean, it was just so busy. I mean,
mhm,
that was I know it was the busiest day since I've been here since, in 2019. So in 6 years.
okay,
And I think Ross said 2013,
mhm.
last time we had that. I mean, we had 7 EF3s.
All from the Ada? Didn't it start in Ada? Is that what the name of it the town is?
Ada,
Oh,
Oklahoma. Yeah. I mean, well,
is that the same that hit Plevna and
no, that one started in
okay,
Pratt County, went Pratt, Stanton, Reno. But
okay.
that one happened like last. I think that formed right around 11:30 at night,
It
and
was
then
late, yeah.
yeah, and then ended about maybe 12:30, 12:20 somewhere in there. And that was the worst one. That was the
Mhm,
strongest. But again, it just thankfully was over, very rural areas mostly. I mean, I know we had I think it was the Clark farm that got damaged in I think it was it Pratt County? I'm missing it. But then obviously Plevna.
mhm.
We all heard about Grinnell up in northwest
Grinnell,
Kansas.
yes.
That one was a weaker
Mhm.
F3, but it hit the town directly. So
Okay. Yeah, I'd forgot about that one, and I saw where it hit the I don't know if it was a local co-op or I think
I believe so.
it
Yeah.
was grain elevators or
Yeah.
some smaller ones anyway. But
Yeah.
yeah, okay. Yeah, that's what I meant by the phones is like, yeah, maybe you're communicating with the National Weather Service, storm chasers, and
Yeah,
you know,
it's all online. It's all,
yeah,
once upon a time it was phones and whatnot, and
okay,
and it was archaic. It's like took forever to get these messages, but now, I mean, you'll have a storm spotter out there and he'll post in this room,
okay,
and I when we have when it's life threatening situation, we're no longer competitors. I
mhm,
mean, the other guys, I won't, the other TV stations, I
yeah,
mean, yeah, we're still competing, but the bottom line is to save lives.
correct,
And if it's a storm chaser for maybe Channel 10 and he posts in the room, I've got a tornado on the ground, he's sharing that with us and with, Channel 3. And then
right,
it's just to make sure we save lives.
correct,
That's the number one goal. I mean,
mhm,
ratings aside, so we're all holding hands on days like that. Day like today, where it's whatever, a couple of storms and 75. No, it's a competition. Not the Weather Service is never a competition. We're partners with them. We are
right,
definitely partners with them. But on a day like when we're level
mhm,
4, level 5, nope, we're all gonna work together.
okay, yeah, but that's cool. I mean, I would figure it seems that way that
Yeah.
like you guys are still friends and
Now,
basically colleagues at different
And
companies and
now,
everything.
after the situation's over, we're all going to do promotions that said we did it best and
Yeah.
whatever. But during the thing, now it's just, yeah. Again, saving lives. That's our number one goal on those days. And once again, I mean, it's like Andover we talked about, and then there's just zero fatalities. I mean,
Right.
I'm really proud of our storm spotter network, our meteorologists, National Weather Service on television, but I'm proud of the people.
Mhm.
I mean, Kansans, I've lived around a lot. Kansans pay attention to the weather and they heed the warnings. They do. They
The-
they 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 know what Mother Nature can do.
uh-huh.
So,
I It's sad, but unfortunately, I'm starting to hear a little bit of rumblings because of last season. There was a time a lot of places canceled, like churches and rec balls and stuff like that,
mhm.
and things, and it split around Wichita, basically.
Yeah.
The fact is, things still happen north of us, 50 miles. I can't remember if there was any tornadoes, but there's still severe weather,
Right.
heavy rain. Be thankful is what I say that they can, show it within that range, and not to be mad that, oh, nothing happened.
And I'm sure you can attest to that. I
Mhm.
mean, you have a lot of people who get upset and they root for severe. Oh my gosh, it's going to be severe. I'm so excited. And in in my experience, those people have not gone through a
Mm.
truly nasty, life-threatening thunderstorm, whether it's large hail, destructive winds, or a tornado. Because once you have, you
Mhm.
don't want those things anywhere near your house.
No.
I mean, you're thankful, and that's how you see the big yellow blob like today.
Right.
Big. All of Kansas is a level 2 today, which in the old days was a slight risk, but
Okay.
scale of 1 to 5, so 2. We're not not even halfway there, but all of Kansas is in that level 2.
Okay.
Is all of Kansas going to see severe weather tonight? No,
No.
a small fraction will,
Uh-huh.
but anyone in that level 2 could. We don't know. We know that anyone in that level area 2 could see a storm, but until the storm forms and starts moving, we don't know exactly who's going to get hit until they actually start forming.
Correct.
We're not that good. We can't say at 7 a.m. A storm's going to form exactly 5 miles south of Hoxie and then
Mhm.
move through Hoxie and then Hill City and what have you. I mean, once it happens, then we know. But we just say, look, if you're in this yellow zone, just have a plan.
Mhm.
Don't absolutely think 100% you're going to get up the golf ball size tail or whatever. Just have a plan and get ready.
Right.
It could happen.
Yeah.
And as far as like canceling things, that's what we get asked all the time.
Mhm.
Should we cancel? We just say we don't go there. We just say, here's the forecast, because that's up to you and every church is different. Every softball, baseball league is different. Football nights on Friday. There are private forecasting companies that get paid lots of money
Mhm.
to make those decisions.
Right.
We don't. I mean, and plus I'm forecasting for almost an entire state, so
Right.
it's really hard to pinpoint everyone's backyard. So we just kind of leave those up to the experts, the superintendents, the pastors, what have you. We leave it up to them. I said, here's the best information I can give you. You make the best decision then for your people.
Right. Yeah. So those areas when they put those out, I think of it more of a hey, keep an eye out.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, tornado watch.
Right.
Watch out.
Hmm.
Keep it. Doesn't mean it's going to happen. It means it might.
Right.
Warning, then you're in trouble.
Right. Okay. So while we're there on percentages or areas,
This is fun.
so is it by county?
No.
Is state?
No.
Okay.
So, and we on 12, we don't use percentages because there are meteorologists that don't understand them.
Okay.
Now, the overall gist of we get. I mean, most people know that if they see a 20% chance of rain, probably not going to happen.
Right.
80% chance of rain, I'm probably going to get wet.
Mm-hmm.
But they think that means there's an 80% chance of rain and a 20% chance of no rain.
Mm-hmm.
It's not how it works. So basically what we're doing, or what the forecast models are doing, is they're picking out a point, unless it can be any point, a grid point. And we have the higher resolution models, like a 3 kilometer. So every grid point's 3 kilometers apart. That's really small.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty good. So any point there, what they're going to look at, and I'll keep this simple. So the computer is looking at 10 previous days.
Okay.
Let's just say 100, make it easy. So it's looking at 100 past days.
Okay.
Over the however many years that had weather conditions very similar to today. So the computer is analyzing those past 100 days that have similar conditions to today in that one point. And of those 100 days, 62 had rain.
Oh, okay.
So the computer says there's a 62% chance of rain at that grid point or immediately around it.
Wow. Okay.
So that's how it works. So it's not county. It's not, it will or won't, or same thing. It's looked at 100 days and only 10 had rain near that grid point. So there's only a 10% chance of rain. So again, it's looking at past data on very similar, no 2 days are exactly alike.
Okay.
Which is, again, an exact science. But it's looking at very similar, like, okay, all of these days had humidity in this range, winds in this range, temperatures in this range, and so on and so forth. Computers can solve this, stuff.
Right.
And I'll stop right here. I go to school talks. I love school talks. I always talk, especially little kids. They get a kick out of this. I'm a math guy. I tell them that. I love math. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go solve math equations to come up with today's forecast.
Okay.
Not tomorrow, not the next 10 days, only today, just today. And I say, will you wait for me while I do a few math problems? They're like, yeah, that's fine. And I'm like, okay, how long am I going to be out in the hall? And they're like, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. I stop. I say 30 years.
Wow.
For just today's forecast, it would take me 30 years nonstop math problems, no sleeping, no eating, no nothing. 30 years of nothing but math problems to do the forecast for just today.
Oh my goodness.
And again, 25 years ago, computers, it may have took them 6 to 8 hours to do that. They can do it now in an hour or two. I mean, that's why forecasting has become way more accurate, because computers just get faster and faster and faster. They're solving these math equations faster than ever before.
And more data.
Yeah, and more data. I mean, we have these high resolution models, and those are the really pretty ones. Like you see Future Track, it almost looks like radar is going to be.
Right.
I mean, those things are so high resolution. They're updating every single hour. We get updates. Think about that. It's every hour we're getting new, information on where it's going to rain or snow or temperatures, or all this stuff. It's just so quick. It's unbelievable how fast they are.
Yeah. And the ones like, okay, like that you can find on the app, is that a predictive of what it might?
I tell people, I love saying this and they always laugh. It's not the gospel.
Right. Right.
It's a gauge.
Okay.
That's why if you watch me, I will say, here's what radar may look like at 5 p.m.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it's going to be raining exactly in Hutch or Newton. It just means that somewhere in this area, there's most likely going to be storms. It's not, if you go that to a T, you're going about the wrong way. Once the storm forms, it's different. Now, that's thunderstorms. When we get to these like winter storms and like the leading edge of the snow, those are a little bit easier, because that's just one big precipitation mass. storms are, pop up here and there and fall apart so quickly. They're very complex, very complex. And actually it's really hard to form a storm, and it's extremely hard to form a tornado.
Okay.
And that's why we see so few of them. But these big storm systems like we get, and sometimes it's rain or snow or both. I mean, that, they encompass the whole state. Those are a lot more accurate. If we show that like in January and it says it's going to start snowing at 4, it's probably going to start snowing around 3:30 to 4:30. I mean, you can be really, really, accurate on those.
Okay. The other cool thing is snow takes some pretty particular conditions too, doesn't it?
Well, that's the funny thing is, like, if I go out and say, we're going to get somewhere between half an inch and an inch of rain.
Yeah.
Everyone's okay with that. Oh, okay. I get that. If I went out there and said, we're going to get somewhere between 3 and 12 inches of snow, which is about the same thing pending the water ratio.
Right.
What? I mean, snow prediction's hard. So basically, if we're saying we're going to get 4 to 6 inches of snow, and again, based on the equation, because snow ratios can range from 10 to 1 to 5, so on and so forth, depending on how wet that snow is or how dry it is. If I say 4 to 6 inches of snow, it's like me saying it's going to rain somewhere between 0.4 and 0.48.
Yeah.
I mean, that's you're calling your shot right there. Snow prediction's very hard.
Uh-huh.
And I'll let you know a secret. I learned this in Michigan. If I forecast 6 to 10 inches of snow, the blob, I'm thinking 10, because you know why? Viewers don't hear 6 or 7 or 8 or 9. They hear 10.
The most?
Yes.
Okay.
And then on social media, that's going to snow 10 inches tonight. And I get that. I do, because we are saying 6 to 10, but most people focus on the highest number. So that's how I do it. Everyone's different, but if you watch me and I say 4 to 6, I'm thinking 6.
Okay.
I'm thinking 6.
Just okay.
Yeah.
I could see people getting mad about it too, about not getting the most amount and then get the or however the person is. But
I would say 9 out of 10 people want the higher amount.
They do.
Yeah, they do. And maybe especially like in December or January, you get to March, it's like, okay, we're done.
Right.
Or if they're traveling, but most people, if you say 4 to 6 and you get 7 or 8, they're okay with that.
Right.
Most people are okay with that.
Because I'd rather have a nice pretty snow to play in, take kids out and play in it versus a slushy mess, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, or just none.
I'm old and cranky now. It's like I want sunny and 75 every day. So.
Okay, San Diego.
I'm that exactly.
So you haven't got to do that weather forecasting yet, huh?
No.
You've had difficult ones so far.
I have. Mountains, and they all bring unique challenges. Mountains are very difficult. And there's just lack of data up there too. That's a different story altogether. The Great Lakes, lake effect snow is insane, but people that live up there, they understand it.
Okay.
They understand that there might be a band of snow 5 miles wide that produces a foot of snow, and then you go a mile or 2 north and you get flurries. I mean, they get it. They understand it up there. They get lake effect snow. But I've lived a lot of places and everyone says the same thing.
Yeah.
If you don't like the weather, just wait 5 minutes. I tell you, that's truest in Kansas.
It is.
I've never seen the temperature swings, the stuff we get here. I mean, and again, it's because we're in a perfect spot. I mean, we've got nothing stopping the Canadian air coming down from Canada. There's no trees blocking it. It's coming right down the chute. We've got free path, Gulf of Mexico coming straight up. We've got the mountains and the downsloping. I mean, we're just right smack dab in the middle. We get everything.
Okay.
So,
and then the jet stream, how it comes down over the Rockies or however it does. Okay, Tornado Alley.
Yep.
Let's get to that. So we're in it, but they're saying it's moving east. Is data showing that at all? Or I feel like Kansans are like, don't want to give that up in some weird way.
I did a story. We did a story on this a year ago for our severe weather special, and I actually did, a special package on is Tornado Alley moving, and the answer is no.
Yep.
There has been an uptick in tornadoes farther east in Illinois and in Iowa and Missouri and, Mississippi, Alabama. But every time they do an average, whether it's a 30-year average or a 5-year average or whatever, Kansas is number 2 every single time. Texas is 1 because Texas is really big.
Very
But
big.
Texas is 1, we're 2, Oklahoma's 3. So even though they're getting more tornadoes farther east, even with their uptick, we are still getting more than they are.
Okay.
So I mean, we've had some down years, but no, Tornado Alley is Tornado Alley. It's not moving. There's they call it Dixie Alley over there.
Right.
They really do. And there is an area that gets a little increased tornado activity in Dixie Alley, but Alabama, Mississippi, none of them, they do not get the tornado numbers that we do. They don't.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say you don't want it with all the trees there in the Dixie Alley. Going back to like how I said my comfort factor here, being able to see the storm, yeah, like I wouldn't wish that on them down there. So
Yeah, it's different. It's different.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that sometimes, and that's part of the reason why. And we actually had this discussion at work the other day. Is how come the EF3s in Kansas, are not as deadly, if at all, compared to the ones well, there are a lot of reasons. People tend to pay less attention to warnings out there. I don't know why. This is research study I've done during grad
Okay.
school. And the other reason is too, is like there's a very high mobile home population, especially in Mississippi and Alabama, and mobile home is nowhere to be. That's a very unsafe place to be in a tornado.
Yeah.
Very unsafe.
Oh.
I mean, you have better luck just being outside.
On the ground,
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
lowest spot possible.
And
on the
but
ground.
people don't understand that. They think,
Yeah.
"Oh, I'm in a shelter." Well, it's not tethered to the ground. It's not built like. I mean, we've all seen what an EF4 can do to a well-built house. Man, it's just
Train.
yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it could take a semi rig and toss it, half mile down the road. So they're not safe. And that's, I think that there's a lot of reasons too, but I think, again, there's the lack of visibility, maybe not the warnings. Yeah. But they usually have higher fatality rates with the same tornado compared to ones in Kansas or Oklahoma.
Right. And so while we're on safety for a second, do not park under the overpass,
We all remember that one.
Yeah. That was, that was a crazy video and everything, but they shouldn't have done that, right?
At the time, they didn't know.
Right.
I mean,
but
we had a lot less information than we do nowadays. And I mean, it saved their life that day.
it did. But
But then, and that was the thing for a few years until they started doing studies on it. And they're like, oh, wait a minute, it actually increases the wind in there. And then I am applauding Twisters, the second one, the movie. Have you seen it?
I have not yet.
Okay,
No.
well, okay, I got to be quiet now. I can't. Spoiler alert. They did a good job with the underpass. I will say that. It's not going to spoil it too much. They did a good job taking that thing and making it relevant.
Right.
So yeah, you'll see right away. It happens quickly in the movie.
It does?
Oh, it's
Okay.
right off the bat. Right off the bat.
I saw an ad for it on Prime, so maybe I'll. I think it's finally to Prime, so I'll check it out and see if
I mean,
it might be on rental.
The first one I loved.
Mhm.
I mean, it was garbage science-wise, but who cares? It was fun. It was neat. It was exciting. That's really what got storm chasing going.
Mhm.
The second one's, it's a little more scientific, but it's still but it's a great movie. I mean, it really is. I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
The music from the first one was better, but
Okay.
that's me
Yeah.
though. I'm the Van Halen guy,
Okay,
they're rocking out,
Yeah.
and going this one's a little different, but they're both great movies, but don't believe the science in there. It's not true.
In the second one, or
Both.
both? Okay.
Well, the first one's just okay, they tethered themselves to the pipe. No, they're gone. They're both not going to survive that. It's physically impossible to see an EF1 through EF5, or, or I guess at that time it was F, like in a span of like 10 hours or whatever. I mean, it's just, but it's fun. It's great. But the second one, again, I can't spoil it.
Okay.
But it's what they're trying to do is not possible.
Okay.
What they're trying to do scientifically is not possible.
Okay.
So yeah, just go with that.
No,
but it's fun. It's great.
I think I know what you're talking about just from seeing some of the previews and things. Okay. Got you on that one. But anyway, under the overpasses, like the other reason is to not park your car under there because first responders and everything, if they need to get through too. I just want to put that out there just for it's not a good place to park. So,
And I get that question a lot. I mean, what should I do? And I was like, the first thing you need to do is, if it's one of those days where we're at level 4 or even level 3, we're talking a strong possibility of tornadoes. You need to have a plan. I mean, maybe you don't travel that time because, again, if you're in a car on the interstate, through the Flint Hills where there's nothing,
right.
there's nothing, you're just not safe.
Yeah.
I mean, underpass, not safe. A car, absolutely not safe. Most ditches are going to have water in them, and even then, they're pretty shallow. I mean, you're not safe.
Right.
And you get out there, you might be 20 miles away from the nearest shelter, and tornadoes are fast.
They are.
And they move west to east. We know that, but is it northwest to southeast? Is it southeast to northwest? Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, west to east. So again, you don't want to mess with tornado. Even storm spotters every once in a while get tricked. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that wouldn't be for me. I mean, it would be so cool to see one out in the western Kansas out in the field. I know a farmer's probably like, I don't want one in my field, and but it's probably the best way to see one. But
going back to the school talks, I talk a lot to like 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th grades, and I tell them that I have a love-hate relationship with tornadoes. I'm like, what does that mean? And I'm like, well, you have brothers and sisters. Yeah. Do you love them? No. Yes, you do. Do you hate them sometimes? Yeah. It's the same thing. Tornadoes are beautiful, and they're the most powerful thing on this planet. People say hurricanes. Well, a hurricane's much bigger, pound for pound.
Last longer.
Yeah, it lasts longer. They're bigger, but pound for pound, a tornado, no. I mean, if tornadoes were the size of hurricanes, oh boy.
Yes.
Oh boy.
Winds.
We would have a planet left. I mean, honestly. So, I mean, they're beautiful. They're so powerful. They're majestic. They're mesmerizing. But man, they're killers.
They are.
They're killers.
The wind speeds. It's insane.
My mind can't fathom it, and I mean, how does the wind take a broomstick and push it through a much harder cement wall?
Yes.
I mean, I can't do that. I can't think of any human being or a machine that can take a softer material like wood and push it through a cement. How does wind do that? It doesn't compute up here.
It doesn't. No, there's so many unexplained things. I remember the one in 91 with just how the house right north of my parents' house was just blown up, right? I mean, gone. It was over the road. Luckily, they weren't home. But the house next door, too, I mean, it had roof damage. And we're talking it's 25 yards away or something, how close to, some of the neighborhoods.
And the thing about, when the tornado is forming, we talked about this briefly before, you've got the horizontal rotation on the ground, and then it gets pulled up. And as it first forms, you're going to get wind like you kind of felt that.
Yes.
But then as the tornado gets completely formed, all of that wind is right there.
Condensed.
Yeah. And you may go 5, 10 feet away, and the wind is extremely light.
Okay.
So if that tornado just, does this again, and that's the explanation. Like you look at a house that's been ripped apart in the kitchen and everything's ripped apart, but there's a carton of eggs untouched.
Yeah.
Untouched. Didn't even move. It's like, how does that happen?
Just how the wind, just the difference.
Yeah.
And just, okay.
And I will say the other thing too, and I still don't know. I mean, it's on Netflix, so it's true. Have you seen? Because we just had the anniversary of Joplin.
Yes.
Have you seen the Netflix documentary?
I started it and I have not watched the whole thing.
I mean, there was a group of people that claim they went through, and it's not the eye, but they went through the middle of a tornado and they survived. I'm not calling them liars. I don't know, but I was an EF5.
It was massive.
I don't know. I don't know how you survive because the debris inside is going at 200 miles per hour, and not to mention the wind. I mean, again, if it can take a wood and stick it could rip your arms off like that. So I don't know. Maybe they were close. I don't know, but to my knowledge, the best of I know, there's been no one that's been inside of a tornado and lived to tell about it. So we don't know exactly what happens in the middle of that tornado.
Right.
We don't know exactly what's happening.
Still ongoing.
Yeah, because the way they described it, and this isn't too much of a spoiler, they described it as almost like a hurricane.
Mm-hmm.
And my guess is that's kind of what, again, in the moment they're terrified. I can't even imagine the terror going. So their mind might be playing tricks on them. But that's how a hurricane works. A hurricane is oh my gosh, we're all gonna die, and then wait a minute, it's over,
Mhm.
and you're in the eye, and you think you're done. No, and then oh my gosh, we're gonna die again. So
Uh-huh.
but a tornado and a hurricane are different. I mean, it's the same cyclonic circulation, but they're different. The formation's different, the process is different. So I don't know if we have that calm inside the tornado
I don't
like they were describing. And again, they did describe it as a. They thought they were like they said they're like, well, we thought that we were done because everything stopped.
uh-huh.
And again, a tornado's going so fast. Even if you had that calmness, it would have lasted seconds.
Yeah. So, and I'm not educated on this stuff. Didn't go to school for it, but to me, I would just thinking about it. It seems like a hurricane. You could get a little bit more consistency. I mean, sizes of them are going to vary, but
Yep,
tornado,
they're
there's
all they're
no
very
two alike
no.
with any of them. So I don't. Thinking about that now, I don't know that tornado science will ever get like completely
No, and
known.
we're completely honest. I mean, we
Right.
know a lot about them, but we have a long ways to go.
Yeah.
I mean,
But
we know why they form and what ingredients they need to form, but exactly where they're going to, we can give you a pretty good area.
right,
But
which is still awesome.
yeah, but you know, just again, what happens inside, and that's what some of the movies have tried to do. It's just we don't know. We don't know.
Okay.
We can guess.
Right.
So
It's I guess Hollywood has to sell their
yeah,
thing somehow.
yeah.
Okay. Is there any other weather phenomenons that you really like? I mean, other than being, maybe biased towards Kansas weather.
I mean,
The downburst. Okay, we had one. Sorry, but
I
what
would
year
say
was this? So it would have been probably when you weren't here, but we had some heat burst.
oh, yeah, the heat bursts. Like,
It
yeah,
was at night
yeah,
though.
they happen at night when decaying thunderstorms, and you've got this massive air. Now,
Okay.
as air sinks, it rises, it warms quickly, and we call that the downsloping effect. From the
Okay.
mountains. So you got this air that's being pushed down at a rapid rate, and so it warms up so quickly. It happens a lot, but not often does that it hit the ground and find a temperature sensor. So I mean, and you've seen, yeah, like
Okay.
you'll go from like 75 degrees on a July night or whatever, and the temperature will soar to like 95 or 100. I mean, there have been actual record highs in Kansas that have happened in the middle of the night from those heat burst.
So that counts as a record?
Yep,
Oh wow.
yep, that
Even
counts.
though it would just been a kind of a smaller area
Yeah,
too?
I'm trying to think. I think you have to have the temperature because like even like
Uh-huh.
the temperature's taken every hour
Okay.
at the airport. You get the hourly. In that hour, even like in the afternoon, like when it's like 95, during that hour it can go like 93, 96, and but it's got to be. I want to say. I think it's got to be 5 minutes at a
Oh,
certain
last a little
temperature
bit?
to be the high. So like
Okay.
so like let's just say like it's 95 and then it hits 97, but only for 30 seconds. That doesn't count.
Okay.
That doesn't count for the high. The high will be 95, if that
Okay.
makes sense. You've got to meet it. It's got to be it for a certain amount of time. And I think it's 5 minutes. Don't quote me on that, but it can't just happen. Boop, boop. No, it's got to be a certain amount of time.
Okay.
But the heat burst will usually, yeah, because it'll warm up to like boom, like like 107 and 106 and 105. So whatever they decide to. It's rare, but there are some record highs that have happened during heat burst.
Okay.
But I will
Uh,
say on that real quick, one thing, and I did a research project. Are you familiar with the Great Blue Norther?
I am not.
Okay, so November 11th of 1911, so 11/11/11.
Okay.
There was on record the strongest cold front ever recorded. It happened in November, so we're starting to go into the cold season. And basically there were places in Kansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Nebraska that had achieved record highs during the afternoon. Like
Okay.
80, 85, 90 degrees in early November, that's high.
Mhm.
And then when the front came through, most of these places dropped some 70, 80 degrees.
Whoa.
And they set most of them had record highs. They set record lows on the same day within a few hours. There were documented cases, because again, there's newspapers, there's no TV weather, there's no nothing like that. You look at the paper, warm today, turning colder tomorrow. Okay, great. Farmers that went out, in overalls and short sleeves because it was a nice warm they froze walking home.
Oh man.
In from their fields. Yeah, it's the Great Blue Norther. It's arguably the strongest cold front in the history of the United States. So, yeah, it caused. I know there were tornadoes in Michigan from that, and it went all the way down to Florida. But yeah, it was for most places, it was the biggest temperature drop ever in a certain amount of time.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that kind of stuff just gets me. I love cold fronts. I do. I love cold fronts.
Oh, they bring amazing clouds too.
Yeah.
It seems like, or from what I showed you a picture of one earlier. But it's crazy how much different the weather can be just a state away or a couple states away because of one. You know, they're supposed to be having really cold weather up north right now, right? Because of everything that's coming through this weekend. Not northern Kansas, but further, further north.
The Dakotas, I know, yeah, because
lower than normal.
Yeah, because I mean, well, even us. I mean, our normal high is 80. We're going to be pretty much in the 60s, all weekend long, and Memorial Day. That's rare.
It is, yeah,
That's I think our record high today in Wichita is 100 degrees today.
Oh man,
so yeah, so I mean, yeah, and it's funny because I know that places in North Dakota have already hit like 95 this year. And a lot of places had record highs. Then within a couple of days, they had snow on the ground. So,
wow.
And that was just a couple weeks ago.
Oh man.
Yeah. So,
yeah, that's okay.
That's why it's exciting. It's like it's a challenge. I tell people that no 2 days are the same. I mean, I wake up and they're similar, but every day, I wake up, go to work, and okay, what am I going to be challenged with today? So,
well, at least it makes the job.
Yeah.
Keep you on your toes.
It's rare that I'm bored at work. It's very rare.
Yeah.
You get to we call it the death ridge in the summer. It's the heat dome.
Is that your downtime?
Yeah, that's when those are when you see the 10-day forecast and it's all 10 days are sun and it's like 97, 99, 104, 102, 101. It's just that's the death ridge. It doesn't rain. It's sunny every day, and that's when summer really beats you.
So is it trying to guess the humidity for the days, maybe, or something like that?
Yeah. Honestly, I know. I mean, I'd say in an average busy day. I mean, again, I'd like to spend more time forecasting. I can't. I've got too much to do. And I'd say I might spend 90 minutes.
Oh.
But okay. on in the summer day, I can have the whole 10-day done in probably 20, 30 minutes because there's nothing to look at. I mean, it's just we call it severe clear.
Okay.
Sunny for the next 10 days. The only thing you're trying to figure out is the exact high. And again, you've got these really accurate models that are saying, 101, 101, 102, 101, 103. So it's going to be 101 or 102. At that point, nobody cares. It's just hot.
Right. It is. So during that time, is that when, say, like the jet streams more up north?
Yeah.
Northern U.S. in there. So they're the ones getting the severe weather up into Canada.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, so the jet stream usually parks over the southern plains, February. That's where you get severe weather from Texas into the, Mississippi, Alabama. And then by the time we get to like April, May, it's kind of, centered over Colorado, Kansas. I mean, it varies, obviously, but Missouri. And then you go deeper into the summer, like June, July, it goes up into the northern plain. Even like Canada, they'll have a severe weather season, usually like July. And then it starts to come back down. And we have our second severe weather season, usually in September. That's usually very, limited and not very impressive. But we usually get a little bit of severe weather in September before the jet just, starts to, yeah. And then the Gulf cools off, and stuff like that.
Comes down again.
Yeah.
And then hurricane season, which actually starts pretty soon, right? Or
first of June is the actual start, but you can have them before, which we have had a lot of them lately in that first one.
Right. So, okay. So last year, I'm ignorant on the El Niños and the La Niñas or whatever. So what was last year? What was 2024?
You're drawing a blank.
Was it a historic, like the tornado outbreak? Was it actually significant at least?
I mean, the thing about La Niña and El Niño is they're guides. I mean, so you have a La Niña pattern for the U.S., and it means we typically do this. If you're in the Southwest, you can expect this. If you're in the Northern Plains, it doesn't. Again, it's a gauge, but there's always exceptions to the rule. What's tricky is when you kind of go back and forth, and that's really what we've been doing. We've been kind of going from weak La Nina to weak, ENSO or El Nino, and kind of back and forth. That's when it's really tricky. If you have a very strong La Nina or a very strong, ENSO, El Nino, then you can usually get a good gauge onto what your pattern's going to be that spring, that summer, that fall, that winter. But when you're kind of straddling both, that's when it gets a little difficult.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is that where we're in right now? A little bit, or
right now we're kind of on the edge of both. Yeah.
Okay.
I believe we're supposed to be leaving La Nina and heading into ENSO, but every time we do that, we go right back into La Nina. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And La Nina, is that when the
Cooler.
ocean
Yeah,
is
but
a little warmer, cooler, or is it cooler?
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank here. It's a long day. ENSO is warmer, because ENSO is the Spanish for boy. No, warmer. Yeah, ENSO is warmer. La Nina's cooler. The ocean temps.
Okay. Yeah.
The ocean temps. No, yeah, the ocean temps in the Pacific, off the coast of Chile and stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Which again, that's the thing about too is the oceans are where we have our weather. I mean, ocean patterns, like, yeah, that's why you've got, cities at the same latitude on the east and west coast that have completely different, climates, like, because on the east coast, it's coming up from the south, so like Washington, D.C. is way warmer than, San Francisco.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I think they're roughly the same latitude. So yeah, it's kind of ocean currents, man. They really, same thing, like, it's milder on the Pacific because it's the flow's coming down from Alaska and Canada. It's warming as it's coming down, but again, they don't get much change out there. Usually the only time they get really hot on the West Coast is like when they have the winds coming from the east or from the mountains, and they're warming up quite a bit. And most time it's coming from the west, and so they're very temperate. They're very moderate. Like we talked about earlier, San Diego, weather don't change much.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Went to I used to do BMX, and I went to a band strip crown there. When I found out it was like right on it was actually in Oceanside, so it was by that pier.
Okay.
And being from, Kansas, if there's a wide open space, I'm like thinking wind, so I'm like, how are they going to have a contest right here, get there, and it's just still.
Yeah.
There was no wind at all. And I'm like, this is so weird. You literally could see the ocean right there from where the competition was. And it just felt so weird. And the temperature felt the same.
Yeah,
the whole time we were there.
Yeah, we were in San Francisco a few years ago in June. I don't remember if it was early or middle June, but in June. And I mean, I remember we lived in, we're on the Gulf Coast. I mean, I was telling my kids, you need to pack jackets, and I'm like, no, that's dumb. They were freezing.
Yeah.
I mean, San Francisco in June, I mean, you get the water off that bay, which is probably 45, 50 degrees, the bay water. You're out there on that boat. It's freezing. Yeah. I mean, San Francisco, that's a weird town weather-wise. That's because you got the bay on one side, the Pacific on the other. So usually it's cold there, but every once in a while they get just the right wind flow. They'll get hot, but it's very, very rare.
Oh. Okay.
But usually it doesn't change much. Yeah. But then you'll go in January and it'll be, 65, 70 degrees. So.
Wow.
It's a weird place. That would be a challenge there too. Yeah.
Seattle too.
Seattle. Yep.
I know people that travel up there and stuff for work. Yeah. You get to hear about the different weather patterns there.
And you go to like down like Los Angeles, and you're along the coast, Malibu or whatnot, and nice comfortable 75 degrees. But man, you go inland to the valley, it's 110. So.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember driving because we actually drove to Oceanside.
Oh.
In San Diego. So yeah, I remember going through Arizona, Flagstaff maybe.
Yeah, up north.
Yes. Okay, so it was there, and then that stretch of the desert was different. Yeah, and it's a different heat than here.
It's a dry heat.
Yeah,
there is a difference. I mean, there is a difference, but honestly. I think Kansas has the worst of both. I mean, so you go out to Phoenix. So Phoenix is hotter than most of Kansas. No one's going to argue that. But their air is so dry.
Right.
That they actually have a reverse effect. So it might be 115 degrees, but the air is so dry, it feels like it's 110.
Mm-hmm.
Then you go to where I came from recently, Mobile. Mobile hardly ever gets to 100 because it's so humid. It may be 95, but the heat index is like 115, 120.
Makes it horrible.
We get the worst of both. I mean, we get 105, 110 occasionally, but we also get some humidity thrown in, especially in Wichita. I mean, you got western Kansas, it's more drier, but like, what was it, a couple summers ago in that August? We had a horrible August where, like, I think the heat index in Manhattan got to 128. And I mean, these are not just numbers. This is a verified 128-degree heat index. That's deadly.
That is.
I mean, you're outside doing anything for too long, you're gonna dehydrate like that. That's deadly.
Yeah, and then air conditioning units have a hard time working and all that stuff. I just now put that together too, that we have some massive temperature swings, because it was only a couple winters ago. I remember getting in my car, however accurate that is, saying -28 with that. It was when we had that really, it was
in
cold.
February?
It was something like that.
It was 20,
maybe 21.
21, I think. February 21. Yeah, we had like, I want to say we had like,
it was horrible.
13 days where we didn't even get to freezing in Wichita. And most of those days.
Up to freezing.
Yeah, up to freezing. Yeah, the temperature was below freezing for like 13 days, day or night. Yeah, and the nights we had plenty. I think our official low that stretch, if I remember right, was -17 or -18. So. Yeah.
And I remember looking at the temperature in like Anchorage, Alaska.
Yeah.
And being like 28 or 30.
Yeah. That's usually what happens because we get the big ridge out west. So the warm air goes all the way up to like Anchorage, which is actually not as bad as people think. It's on the ocean. So it's not it's cold, but not like Fairbanks. Okay. But then that pushes all the Arctic air right down the spine of the Rockies to us. So.
Okay.
But I will say, I mean, it's like extreme. So the record high in Kansas, so the hottest temperature ever in Kansas is 121 degrees. Mm-hmm. The record low is -40. That's 161 degrees difference in one state between your all-time record low and high. That's incredible. And I think if I remember right, our record high we're like of all the states, we're like in 5th place. I know California's got us beat. Arizona's got us beat.
In swings?
No, in record highs.
Oh, okay.
Like California's record high is like it's 134 in Death Valley. That's the record for the world, actually.
Okay.
And then I think I can't remember, Arizona's like 128 or record high temperature. I mean, like we're in 5th place in this country for the hottest temperature ever.
Yeah. That's
pretty crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Now our record low is not on the list because you've got like Minnesota, their record low is like -70, minus something like that. So no, record in the States is like -50 something, -60. Alaska has the record low at like 78 below zero or something like that.
Wow.
I know, which is, that's just not fun.
There's that mountain in, it's in the Northeast.
Mount Washington.
Yes, yeah. The record wind speeds that it gets there too. That they've had some really cold temperatures there too, right? You see where the ice.
Yeah, and it's because when they had those nor'easters, the jet streams just going right over that mountain, and they'll just have some insane, like 120-mile-per-hour winds and sideways snow, and
wow, yeah, I've seen plenty of videos of that. That's so cool. Yeah. Okay, so that's where the jet streams usually ejecting off the.
And those winter months, like you have the big dip. Those like what will happen is so you have the big dip over the plain, so the cold air it fills the bowl, so the jet stream becomes a bowl. Cold air just fills the bowl, and then the side of the bowl goes up those, like up the Appalachians like that, and then you get a low pressure that forms off the Gulf and then moves up the coast, and those are the big bomb nor'easters, and that's when like DC and Philly and New York get like 30 inches of snow. Yeah.
Wow.
So I mean, it doesn't happen a lot, but sometimes it's rain, sometimes it's snow, sometimes it's both, and then you had the one year Sandy, which was actually Hurricane Sandy, which actually became extra tropical because it had cold air intrusion. Tropical storm or hurricane is solely warm. There's no cold air in it whatsoever. But then once they start getting cold air entrainment, they become extra tropical. But regardless, it was a superstorm because it was a nor'easter that, formed out of a hurricane. And that was just awful. I mean, that was an awful storm for that part of the country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, hurricanes, they're
not fun.
No.
They're not fun.
Just for how long they last.
Yeah.
Okay, another thing I wanted to ask you about was the silly call-ins that you guys get. Do you guys get the UFO call-ins and things like that?
Not really.
You don't? Okay.
We get the chemtrails.
Oh, the
The
chemtrails.
chemtrails.
Okay.
And,
So
and
that one's.
I would say Collins, it's more like, nowadays emails and Facebook and stuff like that. We get, but we get pictures submitted sometimes that, they think it's a UFO or something like
Okay.
that. But
Pictures, emails. Okay. Yeah.
but we get that. We get the chemtrails.
The
A lot
chemtrails.
of chemtrails.
I'm not even going to talk about that
Okay,
today.
good.
So,
Thank you.
okay. Yeah.
We're gonna just whoop, nope.
Yeah. I'll stay away from that. The only reason I have him is just because
I like it.
named it the Alien Podcast. So, which was supposed to be, you know, just learning things foreign to me. Which,
Okay.
I mean, because originally I'd called Search, and then there was another one that was. I found out later on, even though I had stuff a little longer, and I was like, I'm just gonna rename it. So that's
I
why
like it.
That's why it is what it is.
Well, it's nice. Like I said, things that are foreign to me, alien to me, I'm gonna learn. So
Yeah. So yeah, I figured get him too and add him there in the background, but whatever. With my sports, and then
OU, huh?
yeah, my cousin played there.
Okay.
So,
I'll let it pass then.
okay. Yeah. Big 12 rivals, huh?
Yeah.
So,
Well, and then they left the Big 12. So
yeah.
we won't talk about that. Like I said, I'm
Money
genuinely-
destroy. Yeah, it's yeah. Money destroying college sports it's a weird thing though. I want players to I don't disagree with them
I agree.
getting paid.
It just went from. I mean, it went from you bought someone a lunch and that school lost their championship or whatever,
right
to now it's like it went. I mean, you've got when you've got guys who have not thrown a pass yet in college making more than NFL quarterbacks. That's a problem.
it is.
That's a problem.
And then states passing laws that as soon as they commit Missouri, they can go ahead and start paying them too. So yeah, Oklahoma lost out on a recruit because of they went ahead and put that law in because of a 5-star, that they wanted to keep in state, who is already transferred to Nebraska.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, is it's like now, like when I forget his name, I can't even pronounce it in the first place, but the kid from Tennessee that got recruited and got money as a senior in high school, he got paid.
Mm-hmm.
And then he gets to Tennessee and has a pretty good freshman year, but then he wants to renegotiate his contract. And I'm not even a Tennessee fan, but I applaud them for saying, nope, bye. And now he's UCLA, I think, or something like that. So I'm just like, man, again, and I think personally, again, I'm okay with them getting paid, but we've got to draw a line.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be, okay, you're a professional athlete, you got to sign a contract.
Right.
You got to stay here for X amount of years and maybe make them incentive based like the NFL guys do.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm going to tell you, as a KU fan, the Hunter Dickinson thing didn't work out for us too well.
Well,
a lot of money for not a lot of product.
Right. So Ole Miss did that too. They tried to build from the transfer portal, just paying players that have already been around. They didn't have a playoff appearance.
No.
So it's a gamble. And I think it does. I want to take a stab at his name real quick. Nico Iamaleava.
That sounds very familiar. That sounds right. Yeah.
It's the one from Tennessee.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I think we're just kind of in a phase right now that we kind of got to wait out until something gets figured out.
Yeah.
And then it might have an NFL model or something like that. And maybe the transfer window, which I don't see how because they can transfer.
I think you go back to, before COVID days. I mean, you get one transfer.
I agree with that.
And then if you want to transfer again, you lose a year of eligibility or something. I mean, now it's like there's, because when the portal, if a coach gets fired, there's exceptions to the rule. Coach recruits you, he moves on or gets fired, what have you. Okay, maybe you can get an exception there. But I mean, you've got like these kids that are, 5 years of college, 5 different schools. I mean, it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me from a learning standpoint as well. I mean, that's a lot of transferring and just lost information. I don't know. I love college football. I love college basketball, but it's definitely a problem right now.
It is. But I keep hoping that it's kind of a waiting period till we get something settled. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't have the answer, but
I don't. Yeah, I'm just hoping someday something gets figured out to where it feels like college ball again. I mean, it kind of does when you're just watching the game still,
Right.
but
True.
in the middle of it, it's like you have this sense of worrying. Is the game not going to be the same anymore? Or,
Yeah. I
'cause,
will say I was a big fan of the college football playoff, the expansion. That, I mean, in the past, I mean, you know, you go into the season, you're like a KU fan or whatever. You have no chance. You know, you have no hope. You have nothing. Here's a select school, a few schools that can, you know, only dream of a championship. They lose one game, oh, you're done. You know, or whatever. Now it's like, I mean, theoretically, I mean, like Arizona State, where'd they come from this past year? I mean, it's like I was a big improvement for college football. I mean, that's why I was always, I think, a bigger college basketball fan than football, because I just didn't agree with especially the years they just picked two people. Oh, you and you know, you guys play, you know, for the championship. So, yeah, it's improved a lot.
It has. And yeah, I loved it. I loved the expansion, and people are like, it's not going to work. It worked the first year. Ohio State should not have been in the 4.
I agree.
They wouldn't have been in the 4 team.
Nope, they wouldn't have made it,
and they just won it. So, yeah, the seating, which I guess they fixed. I haven't been keeping up on it, but
yeah, I heard that they're gonna, I think and I agree with that too. I mean, I think, yeah, and I think the NFL is even trying to, maybe there are some teams that want to go that way. I know that they proposed that, because the Lions and the, you know, Vikings, which, you know, are both like, we're what, 15-2 or 14-3. I mean, and you know, the Vikings are like a 5 seed at, like, you know, yeah, so they want to kind of, you know, division winners automatically get in, but doesn't mean you get a home game, you know, if you're yeah. So I think, yeah, they're kind of fixing that too, because that was the one thing too. It's like, yeah, the seating's a little messed up, but I think you did the right thing with the teams, the amount of teams.
Right. Yeah, because I think Arizona State was the only one that ended up giving the other team, Texas,
yeah, it was
a run for their money.
Yeah, the first couple of games are kind of boring, but it was fun to see the teams. Yeah.
So,
like you said, Ohio State, man, they the year before they wouldn't even been in. So
nope.
Which makes you wonder, all the past years, who would have been the champion that, you know? Yeah. So
exactly, with the 2 team.
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah.
You know, there's sometimes like, you know, like,
and in one year, was it? I'm old school. Was it like 2 teams claimed it? Was it like Colorado and Georgia Tech, or? It was a long time ago. I mean, I'm trying to remember. I think one actually won, but then another team was like undefeated and won their bowl games. They're like, no, we're claiming co-champions or something like that. But
Colorado, so
this would have been early 90s, maybe.
Yeah. So 90s, you would have had Nebraska and Miami, and who else was dominant? We stunk during that time. I'm not sure. Yeah. Probably Colorado during that time.
Yeah. And a couple of years ago, you had Central Florida, which undefeated, and they won their bowl games. But no one's listening to them. So it's like, sorry, no, I'm not gonna. No, you don't know.
Because they beat Auburn, who beat Alabama in the regular season, who won the national championship that year.
That's right.
That's how that worked.
Yeah, and they're like, we're undefeated. We beat Auburn. They beat the national champion, so we're the national champion as well. Sorry.
Okay, well, yeah, I didn't know you was.
Yeah, I love me some. And people always ask, if you weren't doing the weather, would you be what's your dream job? I would probably say, you know, play by play for, probably football. I mean, I like basketball a lot. I mean, now recently, my son and I are both Thunder fans. It's fun to watch the Oklahoma City Thunder coming back up
tonight.
Tomorrow night.
Oh, tomorrow night. Yeah, because they're going to Minnesota.
Yeah, going to Minnesota. Tonight's Pacers and Knicks. But I would probably play by. I mean, I played football. I actually got a full ride scholarship to Washburn out of high school, but Washburn was like 0-11 the year before. I mean, you know, so but I didn't take it. I didn't want to be a lawyer. I didn't want to go to Washburn. But anyway, long story short, I played a lot of football. I played football from, you know, probably 5th grade right on through senior year. So I love football. I know a lot about it. So, but I'm a Broncos fan. Most people around here are Chiefs fans. So
well, you lived in Denver for a little while, and
no, the reason I became a Broncos fan, early 80s, 81, 82, something like that. I was, you know, all of 5 or 6, played soccer. And I love the Wichita Wings. And,
Yes.
they were orange and blue. My team was orange and blue, and I was sitting down. My stepdad was watching football, and it was the Chiefs Broncos, and I was just kind of watching. And he said, "You like football?" I'm like, "Yeah." Let a 5 or 6-year-old say, "Well, who do you like?" I was like, "That team." And he goes, "Why? They're the same color as my team." So
Yeah.
and then like a year later, Elway was drafted, and then it just stuck. So yeah, so
Okay.
I've been a Broncos fan, and then my whole family was Chiefs fans, and so they were like, "Oh," and then now my son is a diehard Chiefs fan. So and he's
Okay.
loving life right now, obviously.
Well, he's lived in, Lawrence for the past,
Yeah.
you know.
He got his freshman year that KU won the national championship, and then of course, I don't know how many rings do the Chiefs have? I mean,
Yeah.
3 out of the past 5 or whatever. So
That
he's loving life. He's just, and now he might have the Thunder to get a championship here
Yeah.
this year.
Yeah. Okay, so when they won the national championship, KU, I still remember this saying the Kansas City Jayhawks.
Yeah.
Remember when he announced that?
Yeah.
I was like, how do you
I know.
how do you not know when you're walking out there on court to congratulate the team? But
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, I have no NFL affiliations with. I'll watch it if it's on,
Okay.
But yeah, other than the Thunder, NBA Thunder, I that's about all this pro sports that I'll
Yeah.
watch.
And that was kind of the same thing. My son and I maybe back when Durant was playing for him. My son, he liked basketball a lot. He loved KU, even as a child. Because I made him watch,
Yeah.
And he's like, "We need to find an NBA team." I'm like, "Well, who do you think?" And he's like, "Well, the Thunder, they're close to Kansas, the orange and blue, so it just stuck,
Oh, okay.
And so we've been fans for, decade more now, and, kind of went through the rough patch, and now we're just like SGA and Dort and Hartenstein, and I mean, they got I mean, that win last night, if they win tomorrow in Minnesota, it's over. It's already over.
31 points last night. Was it?
SGA, I think at 38. I think he had 31 in game 1 and 38
Yeah.
last night. But he's on fire. Well, of course you give him the MVP trophy, and then he goes out and
Yeah. Okay. Well, I didn't know how much time you had today, or what.
Oh yeah.
Oh, we started early. Oh man, we're about 2 hours.
Are we 2 hours? We're at yeah.
Yeah, a little while in. I mean, yeah.
We'll probably have to wrap this up then.
Okay. Yeah. So I greatly appreciate your time.
Thank you. Blast. This is good. This is a good time. And again, yeah, talking about weather before and your 2 occurrences with Andover 1 and 2. That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
I'm a little relieved that he told me prior that somebody else was been through it twice too.
Yeah.
So
yeah, nice family out there, right there by the YMCA. Their unfortunately, they know everybody made it out okay, but their house was hit both in 1991 and 2022. So
yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it. Maybe we can get back to it again some other time.
We'll do it.
All right.